Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the satellite imagery, a lot of clouds scattered through the interior, and then some moisture continues to stream northwestward, mostly right up to the Kenai Peninsula, the main precipitation producing clouds right through here, to some scattered showers back up along the coast there, and then clouds, showers over the interior in areas, or some partly to mostly cloudy skies with scattered showers, not so much up here over the northeast interior. And then down south, a storm system pushing up right over the Queen Charlotte Islands there. Some pretty gusty winds over the southern southeast coast with rain, but most of the gale force winds were mostly across Dixon Entrance southward, and then just clouds spreading up to the north and then along the North Gulf Coast, as well as up across the eastern interior. Meanwhile, not a lot of changes going on up along the Arctic coast, just a patch of clouds shifting off to the north there. We're a few flurries here with patchy areas of fog in the observations along the central and eastern coast. Clouds back down across Kotzebue Sound and the Chukchi Sea into the northern Bering Sea. Also some flurries through the Bering Strait and on down towards St. Lawrence Island, but nothing too heavy or serious. And then this front pushing eastward here along the Alaska Peninsula. Gusty southeast winds with that right across the Pribilofs today, rain and snow there, and mostly in the form of rain here for the Alaska Peninsula, breaking out to showers across Unalaska. Another batch of some more solid clouds and steadier precipitation shifting eastward there across the Adak and Atka, and then again breaking out to scattered showers with some clearing back towards Shemya. Rolling that again, you can see shifting northward and then pulling back to the west, and this area slowly sliding eastward. The main upper level low right through this area is going to continue to track eastward over the next couple of days. And the position of the front this afternoon, roughly right across the Alaska Peninsula here with the tighter gradient and the gustier winds in advance of the front, and much less back to the west of it. And then this low pressure area swinging eastward and southward, or southeastward. Most of the winds with that are going to be south of the Aleutian chain, but enough moisture keeping it wet here across the central Aleutians. And again, areas of sun, areas of clouds, and some scattered isolated showers across much of the interior. A more solid area, although pretty narrow. You can see the moisture streaming northwestward here right up to the Kenai Peninsula. Showers there, but even there, not a whole lot falling, but either to the northwest or east of that, nothing at all except clouds. And then this storm system rolling up into the southeast coast. Looks like tonight will weaken considerably this evening and holding on to the rain, but the rain diminishing throughout the night tonight and just about south of the area, almost down to Dixon Entrance or else east over toward Hyder into Canada. So conditions improving, gusty winds coming down this evening there. Otherwise drier conditions, less cloudiness on up to the north toward Juneau, Haines, and Skagway. Look for some partial clearing. North Gulf Coast, Yakutat to Cordova, and still got the moisture here coming mostly along the Kenai Peninsula. Scattered rain or snow showers with that. Also up over the eastern interior, and just isolated showery activity mostly along the Alaska Range, possibly the Nulato Hills, but the next front edging northeastward and eastward. So as a result, conditions will improve here, both the wind and rain diminishing, if not ending altogether, across the western Alaska Peninsula. Showers scattered back across the eastern Aleutian areas, and rain ending for the Pribilofs tonight, but starting to increase there around Nunivak Island. Definitely an increase in the winds here all along the southwest coast. Otherwise, lighter winds continue. Northern Bering Sea, light winds, Arctic coast there, mostly all out of the east, especially on the central and eastern coast, kind of bending around to the northeast and then north up through the Chukchi, but all very light, variably cloudy, clearing over the central interior and the northwest, and then brisk northwest winds back over the western Aleutians. And again, the strongest winds will be south of the chain here with the gradient, this trough swinging through, and numerous showers there for the central Aleutians, scattering out here as you get toward the eastern areas there. And then tomorrow, actually, that trough breaks off into a circulation, so that's going to keep it mostly cloudy. Unsettled there for the eastern Aleutians, but nothing big in the way of winds, showers, mostly cloudy skies, the Alaska Peninsula. A little bit stronger system back here to the west, so a more extensive area of rainfall from roughly, it looks like AKwx back out toward Kiska. Showers, but stronger northwest winds back out here to the west. And now the front for tomorrow, right along the southwest coast, gradually weakening, so winds won't be much of a problem at all. Still southeasterly, a little brisk, but periods of rain along that front, mostly along the coast there, gets a little intermittent and scattered out up over the interior, but a pretty good chance of rain, or the best chance of rain here from the Aleutian Range back across Nunivak Island into St. Matthew. Still scattered moisture up around St. Lawrence Island, but all quite light all through this area, just the very scattered and light flurries, with a mostly sunny day coming up. Noatak Valley, Seward Peninsula in areas, in toward the central areas, back again like today up across the Yukon Flats to the eastern Brooks Range, and maybe some clearing up there over the north slope, but not so much of a chance of that out toward the coastline. And then we've got again more moisture as the front comes eastward here, increasing clouds, increasing chances of rain coming up from Kodiak Island northward along the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula, working up into Prince William Sound. Mostly looking at showers here along the Coast Range, North Gulf Coast, and not to a lesser extent over the Copper River Basin. And a few, again, afternoon showers like today here over the Alaska Range, and looks like mostly the 40-mile country to the east. Again, nothing too serious, and mostly cloudy. Showers starting to actually increase tomorrow afternoon here. It'll be less of that in the morning, and then they start to pick up in the afternoon, kind of a band forming right along and just off the coast throughout the day, and some more over the eastern interior. This moisture rapidly streaming northeastward is going to link up with the two, so by tomorrow night you'll be into kind of just a general flat-out rain across the entire area. And then on Monday, that front lifts northeastward, so rain hangs on down to the south, maybe becoming a little more intermittent here. Higher pressure trying to develop and take up the scene over the Dixon entrance area, but definitely lighter rain south, heavier up here to the north. Periods of extending westward along all the coastline, Prince William Sound. Better chance of more of a widespread rainfall occurring over south central Alaska, definitely down along the coast and up into Kachemak Bay, western Cook Inlet up to the eastern slopes of the Alaska Range, on up into the western Susitna Valley. Looks pretty good for picking up moisture, but the farther north you get, the chances become a little bit less, and doesn't look like any of that will spill into the Tanana Valley, maybe the Kuskokwim Valley, and chances of rain back across the Yukon, or the Kuskokwim Delta, southern Yukon areas there, right back into the Pribilof Islands. Kind of a wet day coming up for St. Paul and St. George for Monday, but winds on the light side, and scattered showers here across the Alaska Peninsula. Also some sunshine possible, and gusty north winds now shifting into the central Aleutians, with showers diminishing as you head north. Not a bad day from St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait. Should be dry across the Seward Peninsula, and again over the north central interior. Just a risk of some showers over the Brooks Range from west to east here. Look for some partial clearing up over the north slope, and it looks like fog flurries mainly around the central Arctic coast there, either side from Wainwright over to possibly Nuiqsut. And again, light winds over the northern Bering Sea, and again continuing for the Arctic coast. Temperatures across the southeast coast today, about what you expect, about the same as yesterday, from the mid-40s to lower 50s, although Skagway up to 56, Stewart had 50, as well as Cordova there with 50 degrees, lower 50s across the Susitna-Manuska Valley, southward across the Kenai Peninsula with 52 at Homer, and at Palmer 53, as well as Kenai and Talkeetna 49 Seward, 50 at Gulkana, lower 50s, Tanana Valley, Fairbanks 53 degrees, Eagle up to 50, and near 50 for Nenana and Delta, 51 over at Tanana, and up to the north into the upper 40s for Fort Yukon with 47, 45 at Bettles. 36, but on the plus side of freezing now for AKwx and even Arctic Village up to 35. Running about 10 to 15 or so here, central eastern Arctic coast, much milder back to the west. Cape Lisbon up to 36, while Point Lay struggled to get to 30. And then quite a range here over the northwest with Ambler 47, Kotzebue 45 degrees, and then upper 30s everywhere else. And that extended down across the Seward Peninsula to Nome, where they had 39 degrees. Mid to upper 40s here over the mid-Kuskokwim, Yukon River Valley areas, on down to Bethel with 47 degrees. St. Michael also at 47, Makoriak 39, and over at Savunga 34 above. Now down to the Pribilofs, upper 30s there, and about the same here with the Aleutians, upper 30s to lower 40s, Shimmy up to 43, 45 on Alaska, and around 40 for the peninsula, upper 40s to Bristol Bay. And lows tonight on the chilly side, approaching 0, but probably not quite making it there for the north slope on out to the Arctic coast. 30s though, to 30 to 35 here across the western interior. Of course, warmest in the southwest, upper 30s Alaska Peninsula west. And about that same temperature pattern for the Panhandle as well. That's south central Alaska. For highs tomorrow, pretty mild, looks like upper 50s, maybe approaching 60 up there in the Tanana Valley here. And then that extends back to the southwest, chilling off to near 50 as you approach the coastline. And then, of course, much chillier out, say, for Nunivak Island at Makoriak, lower 30s St. Lawrence Island, upper 30s, lower 40s, Pribilofs and the Aleutians, staying below freezing for the north slope and the Arctic coast, and lower 50s for the Panhandle. Flying weather start the day off pretty good here over the southeast coast at some remnants of moisture here, keeping it IFR, at least into the early morning hours for mainly the Stewart-Hyder area. And then big area IFR out over the Bering Sea, right through the strait, up around North Slope Arctic coast. Marginal VFR lingering here on the eastern side of the the Alaska Peninsula, and also the southern side. Look for some IFR of the Aleutian, or from southwest Kodiak Island right on down to the south side of the Fox Islands. And for tomorrow afternoon, about the same out here, retreats back a little bit to the west, but the pattern roughly unchanged tomorrow afternoon from tomorrow morning. IFR, North Slope Arctic coast. Increase in the IFR as the front pushes in here across Kodiak Island, but conditions improving for the western Alaska Range, VFR across the Copper River Basin, and now the northern Panhandle moisture slipping northward there. Got areas of IFR over the north and marginal along the coast. But for Anaktuvuk and Adigan, good VFR tomorrow. And for the western Alaska Range, Lake Clark and Merrill, looks like Merrill will be VFR. Still a chance of some marginal VFR here on the eastern approach of Lake Clark. And then up to Rainy, same thing, possibly at times, could be some IFR or marginal VFR early on, and then improving, probably becoming VFR by the afternoon. And then for Windy, VFR there, as well as Isabel and Mentasta, looking good tomorrow. Tanita also VFR in the forecast. Portage, call it marginal. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR, moisture sliding northward, becomes marginal in the afternoon. And the freezing levels, a pocket of 2,000 feet here over the west central interior in the northern Bering Sea, and then also a wedge across the Panhandle up into the Yukon. Otherwise, really not much of a temperature gradient across the entire state or the Bering. And for icing, areas of here, Kodiak Island above about 5,000 feet of mostly the rime variety extending back along the southwest coast, mostly from Cape Newenham being affected, Alaska Peninsula, possible icing on the increase here, North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, and this area pushing off to the east, so no icing in store for the southeast coast. Jet stream, upper level low, slowly tracking eastward here, coming in toward the eastern Aleutians tomorrow afternoon, keeping the jet well to the south here in the Pacific, but taking a turn to the north, but cutting across the Queen Charlotte's. Much weaker flow out of the south-southwest here over the eastern Gulf Coast, so pretty weak flow at this elevation across much of interior Alaska. 9,000 feet showing east-southeast, 25 to 35 here coming onto the coast, 30 to 40 knots from the southwest coast to near Nunivak Island, coming back around northwest, a narrow band of that out here about 35 just west of the low center. 9,000 feet, same pattern here. 25 to 35 knot winds wrapping around the backside of this low center, pulling eastward slowly really light winds across the Fox Islands. Another band of 25 to 30 knotters there from the western Gulf of Alaska, Kodiak Island, in across the north-central Bering Sea, but falling back toward the strait. Light winds Arctic coast, light winds into the interior, light winds off the southeast coast. Turbulence, occasional moderate chop here, Fognak Island, roughly Kodiak State Airport, Chiniat Marmot Bay, back west along the coast, northern Bristol Bay, probably Cape Newenham, and then lighter stuff back to the west, and not too bad out over the Aleutians, just some isolated light to moderate chop. And after the break, I'll be back to look at the ice edge and the marine forecasts.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining us once again is our good friend Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska. Thanks again for joining us, Eric. We really appreciate it, as always.
Happy to be here, Dave.
Thanks. And, you know, we're going to ask you some more satellite questions here, but, you know,
Okay.
since you're a regular guest, we're going to give you a riddle this time, kind of a trick start to the show.
Okay.
How do you see a polar bear in a snowstorm?
Sounds like a challenging question because
Okay.
the polar bear is white and the snowstorm's white.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Well, in the world of satellite meteorology, you couldn't, because the spatial resolution of this instrument that we're going to talk about today has 375 meters resolution, and even the most well-fed polar bear will not be 375 meters across.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to run into such a
No, that'd be a
creature,
bad day.
would you? In the satellite meteorology world, the equivalent would be, how do you tell the difference between clouds and then an area that has no clouds but's covered by snow,
Right.
a piece of ocean that has no clouds but has sea ice?
Ah.
All three of these are white.
Right.
The snow, the clouds, the sea ice, it's all white. So how, using satellite data, can you tell someone where the clouds are and where the clear areas are? This is important for aviators. Mariners want to know, in the ocean there, this white stuff, is that sea ice or is that just a cloud?
Right.
How do we tell the difference? And it turns out, if you look, say, at a picture of Alaska from the springtime, March or April, and it's high noon, so we're getting a lot of sunshine. If you were riding on a satellite with your human eye, look down, everything's white.
Right.
And we've got a picture of Alaska from early April, and we're seeing some of the lower elevations in south central Alaska are melting out, getting some brown ground there, but otherwise there's a whole lot of white on the image. What areas are cloudy, but what areas are clear and covered by snow or ice?
Okay.
It turns out that if we leave the visible spectrum behind a little bit, see, a satellite has multiple channels in the electromagnetic spectrum that it can look at.
Oh, okay.
Part of that's visible light, what we
Right.
see as humans, but there's a lot going on at other wavelengths. If we add in something that's called near infrared, what we couldn't quite see, but we're getting into that infrared territory, there's a magical property that we can exploit.
Secrets to find. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is actually powerful and almost magical, that at a slightly longer wavelength, when the sun shines down on Alaska and then it bounces off back to the satellite, at that near infrared wavelength, it turns out that snow and ice will absorb that wavelength, but liquid water, like liquid droplets in a cloud, will reflect it back.
Okay.
And that's not the way it works in visible. You know, visible, it just bounces off of all those targets the same. But at near infrared, snow and ice absorbs it, and the liquid will reflect it back. Liquid cloud droplets will do that.
Okay.
And so an image where everything looks white suddenly becomes colorful.
Oh,
And the way this recipe works is that the clouds look pink, and the snow-covered ground and the ice-covered ocean look blue. Suddenly now, we're able to see the polar bear in the snowstorm. We're able to see where the clouds are and where the snow is and where the ice is. This is a powerful advantage. Consider the case zooming into the Bering Strait area. What if you were asked to brief a pilot who wanted to fly, say, from Kotzebue down to Savunga or Gamble, and had to fly VFR, visual flight rules, so they had to stay out of the clouds? Could you use a satellite image where everything is white to provide that pilot any guidance?
It'd be pretty tricky.
Very tricky. And that's why we have to go to this other recipe where the all-white polar bear in the snowstorm becomes more colorful. And now we can tell the pilot, aha, this is a cloud you want to stay out of, but over here, sure, it looks white in the visible spectrum, but what we're doing, we'll show you, oh, this is just snow-covered ground, but it's clear, so you can fly right through there, visual flight rules. Same thing for a mariner who might want to get down to St. Lawrence Island, say, but has to avoid the sea ice. this product has applicability there as well.
Wonderful.
It's an amazing new technology, so many new channels. The satellite that makes this imagery actually has 22 different channels that it looks at.
22 secret decoder rings.
22 secret decoder rings.
Okay. You know, I liken this to an activity I had in the car when I was growing up. We go on long car rides, and we do all the work in these activity books to, you know, stay calm, cool, and collected for our parents who were trying to get us across the state. But to get the answer, the real answer, you had to apply that red sheet to see the answer or the secret path or whatever the message was in that activity book to get you onto the next page. And it's also like a photography filter, right? If you're taking a lot of pictures, you can apply different colors to see different parts of that image. I mean, that sounds a lot like what you're talking about.
Oh, you know it. The information is in there all along. We just have to combine the channels in a way to reveal what's in there. And by the way, you're dating yourself. So you didn't have an iPad in the back of the car?
No, sir.
Right? Okay. Well, we have, lastly, for dessert, there's a great image of the same kind of recipe. We're looking at South Central Alaska the first week of January. In first week of January, the sun, even at noon, is really low on the horizon, barely up. And in this image, the fun thing is the shadow of Dehne. We can see the shadow of Dehne over a lower pink cloud deck.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And Dehne at 20,000 feet casts a big shadow. So this is another, just for fun, kind of application here. This is called multispectral satellite imagery, and it's the future. And happily, the future is now.
Oh, that is fascinating. And 22 different secrets that can be revealed from just one satellite tool that's floating overhead. Eric, thanks so much for joining us again. We can't wait to have you back and telling us more secrets of satellite technology that are passing over us every single day, many times a day, over Alaska and helping us all the way in many different parts of our lives. So thanks so much for joining us again.
Well, happy to be here.
All right. And thank you for staying with us. We'll be back with a little more weather here in just a few minutes. And of course, we'll have more Alaska weather facts anytime online.
Today's ice analysis really not too much different from yesterday. Still slowly melting and kind of shifting around with the winds, and that's pretty much the forecast for the next several days. And going on to the coastal water forecast here, pretty light up along the north coast, southwest at 10, 15 to 20 westerlies here on the south coast, right in across Clarence Strait. Lighter winds here through the central inside waters, northern canal south of 20. Monday, small craft advisories out for northern canal, a little bit stronger there, up to 25 knots. Also here for the extreme north coast. Otherwise, south coast, south 25 with seas almost up to 10 feet and light south to southeasterlies there for the southern central inside waters. Light winds, Prince William Sound and Cook Inlet. Picking up here south of the Forelands, up to 30 knots. Kachemak Bay turning southeast at 30. So small craft advisories all through these areas. Kodiak Island up to the Barrens, 15 to 20 from the North Gulf Coast. Then for Monday, that front coming up, holding together enough for gale force southeasterlies here for the North Gulf Coast, especially over the east side. Winds coming up 30 knots. Prince William Sound, seas building to 7 feet. Northeast 20, and that extends down across all of Cook Inlet, turning east for Kachemak Bay. Small craft advisories, though, south of the Forelands, dropping off, the front lifting northward, lying right through here. So south of that, just light southeast winds. For Bristol Bay, east 30 knots tomorrow, then diminishing on down the coastline here to 10. Out of the southeast, southwesterlies at 20 on the south side of the peninsula with small craft advisories from Castle Cape to Sitkinak. Then for Monday, light southeast winds here, or east to southeast, south to east actually there, 10 to 15 knots with seas lowest on the Bering Sea side. Aleutians, west-southwest 15 to 20 for the Fox Islands, westerlies 20 to 25, give or take there for the central areas. West of Adak though, 30 knots out of the northwest. And that continues for Monday as well, 25 knot winds, pretty uniform now from Attu Island all the way over across Atka, and then a little more variable and lighter, especially across on Alaska Island. For the southwest coast, east winds 30 knots, about sums that forecast up. Northeast 25, St. Lawrence Island into the northern Bering. Light variable winds in the forecast for the Pribilof Islands, with seas still hanging in at about 8 feet. And then for Monday, those winds turn north at about 15 there for the Pribilofs. Northerlies up to 20 knots, St. Lawrence Island, down into the northern Bering. South of Nunivak Island east at 15 with seas running at about 4 feet. And then up along the Arctic coast, easterlies 15 to 20 knots. So it looks like it'll be lightest on the central coast, 20 knots on over to Demarcation Point, 20-knot easterlies here on the west side, diminishing by the time you get to Cape Lisburne, northeast 15 and even lighter across the Chukchi Sea. And then looking ahead to Monday, north at about 15, maybe some 20-knot winds here from the northeast, or there will be 20-knot northeasterlies there from Cape Thompson turning east along the west side, 15 for the central coast, and then no change actually for the central coast eastward. Same forecast tomorrow and for Monday. For tonight, again, just some flurries up there, light east winds, areas of clouds, less of that, of course, over the north slope, clearing as you head south of the mountains there. Isolated showers possible, mostly cloudy skies here over the eastern interior. All light, showery conditions still continuing there along the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula. Areas of isolated showers, western Alaska range. This front spreading rain and wind up to the Aleutian Range and approaching the southwest coast with showers following in behind. This system really weakening, shifting eastward, out of the picture tomorrow with increasing showers in the afternoon, and this moisture with this front rapidly pushing northeastward there. But for tomorrow, wet, windy Kodiak Island, back along the southwest coast, showers for the Aleutians, rain central Aleutians, no change over the interior or the north slope or the Arctic coast. Again, increasing clouds and showers here south central Alaska and into the Panhandle. Then that front takes its time but pushes up to the northeast there. Good chance of rain here across southern Alaska into the northern Panhandle with better conditions to the north. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.